Oh man, we need to talk Solana. As you can see from the thumbnail, people have already buried Solana. They've done its funeral. They've given up hope on Solana. And whilst I've been clear that I've been very, very disappointed by the performance of Solana recently, particularly with their outages, I think this has become a little bit too insane, and we need to talk about Solana, and more importantly, what happens when you get this type of FUD and peak fear around a project. Guys, don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, if you're buying cryptocurrencies, check out the links in the description. And as you can see, Solana here is sitting down here at $38. And a lot of people are asking, how comes it didn't fall so much the other day? Well, we found out that the hack was not from Solana. It wasn't Solana's fault. And now it appears to be Slope, one of the third-party suppliers who had the breach and who are responsible for storing the private keys. Can you imagine the private keys on a centralized server? Insane. That was where the exploit happened. They were able to get access to the private keys and therefore drain funds. Nothing to do with the blockchain or Solana's end. Now, I know a lot of you will be screaming at me right now on the screen to say, well, what does that got to do anything? They've still had over seven outages in 2022 and 12 in the past 11 months. Insane number of outages on the Solana network. And for this reason, you guys know I've been very, very tentative around Solana. I said I wasn't dollar cost averaging anymore and that they need to sort these things out. But right now, we are in peak fear. And how do I know that? Because I can see that any news which is relating to Solana is leading to a certain reaction. And I can see people are just boycotting the project simply because of random things. And that reminds you of when I was investing in Tesla. As a lot of you guys know, I did really well investing in Tesla, and I'd look for this peak FUD. I'd look for people who shorting or trying to make a case against Tesla just because somebody crashed a Tesla car, not looking into the facts of, oh wait, somebody put it on autopilot and was playing PlayStation in the back of the car. What do you expect? Right? So that is peak FUD, and we need to identify when there's actual weaknesses and when there's peak FUD. And the difference between that is the return you can get. Now, really important. These outages are a problem, right? The fact that there has been this many outages, this continues to be an issue for me, and they need to resolve this. Now, we understand that Solana are one of those projects which move fast and break things. So when you're allocating a project like this in your portfolio, you need to do so with that risk in mind. You do not buy a Ferrari, you do not buy a Lamborghini, you do not buy a McLaren to think it's going to work all the time. What do you buy? You buy a Volvo, right? You buy, a Nissan, you buy a Toyota, a Honda, one of these cars, right? Which are going to work all the time. And it's the same in blockchains. If you want one of those projects that are going to move slow and do things slowly, go for Cardano. I've said it time and time again. That's why I have Cardano in my portfolio, because if that's the right approach to do everything from an academic, research, peer-reviewed, slow manner, Cardano will do really well. But I also want some Solana in my portfolio. I want somebody who's going to push the boundaries and try to move technology to the parapet, to right that point at the edge of the cliff today to see what we're capable of. It's all great to know what we could be capable of in multi-years, but Solana is actually testing that right now. So I don't want people to get too carried away. This is still a very top project, and I just need to remind you guys of how strong this is. I mean, it was only a little while ago, we were close to $15 billion, we did hit $15 billion of market cap, total value locked, here on Solana. I mean, all-time highs over in the 250s here on the price point, right? This was a very strong project and a darling of the crypto space. So it's not like suddenly it's become nothing. I mean, these stats don't disappear overnight simply because of some outages. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore the outages, but you can't suddenly say that transactions per second isn't 65,000. They don't have really low fees. Their latency isn't really good compared to other blockchains, right? They're there. That pedigree they've achieved. But the outages are something that they have had. They need to face up to it. They need to make improvements. But what I'm noticing right now is this peak FUD. And these are the moments where if you have conviction in a project like Solana, or you do have an allocation, these historically have been very good moments for you to dollar cost average in. And I'll use the example of Tesla. That moment when everybody's flooding Tesla saying it's never going to work, EVs are never going to work, look, they're crashing themselves, autopilot is garbage, this is happening, the infrastructure is bad. When all these hit pieces are coming out, and you can clearly see people are now having not just constructive criticism, but agendas behind putting FUD around Solana, that or any project, that is when you really want to pounce, because that's when you're getting the arbitrage of some great prices. So for me, right now, I'm going to be dollar cost averaging a bit more Solana at these price points. I don't think, maybe there is a little bit of room to the downside if the wider market falls a little bit more. But for me, as a risk to reward, I think these are really nice prices here on a project, which, let's face it, is not going to disappear overnight. This project is too big to just disappear overnight, right? Yes, they can have some structural weaknesses. Yes, they can have downtime, but you've got to remember for each of those 12 downtimes, they've bounced back. They're still here. It's not disappeared. It's not gone to zero. The price has shown some great strength. And even yesterday, when people were blaming this exploit on Solana, even when they didn't know where the exploit was from, Solana didn't move that much, right? So we're at peak fear. That elastic band analogy I use has been pulled so far back. There's not much more damage you can do to the Solana price. That's the baked in hardcore value. So this becomes that great price point for me where I will be adding a little bit more. I won't be going crazy. I've already got a decent part of my portfolio, but at these price points, I'm going to just buy to say, hang on, I'm backing them at this price point. I think the FUD has gone too far. You got to remember, Sam Bankman-Fried, Alameda Research, a lot of heavy VC money is backing this project. They're not going to let it disappear overnight, right? And I think comfortably as a risk to reward, am I going to see my money back? Absolutely. I think this comfortably, gets back into its Fibonacci ratio in these kind of zones, looking at 160 up towards 200 comfortably, and I think in the next bull run comfortably obviously get back to its all-time highs before breaking new highs. So in terms of risk to reward to be buying at this point, I mean, for me it's an absolutely it's a one-sided risk to reward right now, right? So just wanted to give you my thoughts, and I think this is an important point, not just on Solana but any of your different projects. When you see people pouncing and, like I said, burying and giving a funeral for a project, that's when an agenda comes out. What I want to see is constructive feedback. I want to see Solana stop having these outages. I want them to fix this. That's good constructive feedback. Or like I did with my Algorand video, right? I want to see them improve their marketing, do this, do this. Otherwise, I might have to lose my position. But for people just to find any excuse to be pouncing on it and say it's a useless blockchain, it never was a good blockchain. Like, where did that come from? It's still fast, right? Still good transactions per second. Still had really good total value locked. Has shown real good promise. So definitely I can see a lot of potential here. And I think the fudders are just fudding this way out of proportion. I mean, this was just such a clear catalyst when it clearly wasn't their exploit, yet people still pounced on it just to further try to jump on the bandwagon. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick update. Don't forget to smash up the like button if you want to hear my views on Algorand. Check out the video I'm going to link here, and I'll see you in the next one.